Hello everyone, now is our advocacy and toolkit session. We're going to be hearing a bit more from Eric Balakrishnan, who is president of Yes Europe, where he champions clean energy and sustainable development initiatives. This toolkit will look a bit more at sort of what is advocacy, where to start, directions and diversity, and maybe a bit more on sort of any advice that comes through. So we want to make this very much an interactive session with those who remain. If at the very least, Uni and I will be interactive to keep it going. And once again, Eric, thanks for joining, and over to you.
Thank you, Philippe. I know this might be part two of the webinar if it splits up later, but thank you to Ronelle as well, and well done to her for presenting everything that she presented. I know she left the call already, but I think it's good to acknowledge that. So I prepared another presentation about this Youth Advocacy Toolkit, so I will present my screen again. Can you see my screen?
Yes. You've even got a logo. Oh, I feel so joyous, thank you.
Yeah, I had to put it in. It's a collaboration, right? Okay, so basically just to reintroduce what Yes Europe is about, we are young leaders in energy and sustainability. So we champion leadership in these sort of very technical sectors, but we do it in very diverse ways. And what we really sort of, I guess, prioritize in our organization is advocacy. And we want to champion the skills of people and give them challenges in order to empower them to get results from that. It's been a very challenging year for Yes Europe, if to give a real life example. Each year we host an annual conference, which is in theory a local team event, but the Belgian team who's been running it have had a number of complications this year. But that is exactly what Yes Europe aims to achieve. It is a challenging situation for them, but through the experience of having obstacles along their way, they're able to get a more rewarding outcome. And the outcome is that we're on the precipice of just announcing the venue and the panel for our annual conference this year in a couple of months. So in our opinion, advocacy is a seven-step process, so the 7 spokes in the wheel. And I'll touch upon it and basically talk you guys through exactly how we see advocacy. So it starts from absorption, it goes all the way to networking and then developing strategies, mobilizing, localizing your idea and then globalizing it, and then finally launching it. So how does absorption work? So the best thing to do is obviously engage yourself in your own interests. If this particular topic interests you, is the best place to start. I don't think it's ever going to be a fruitful idea to throw yourself into something that you're not interested in. It's very different in terms of whether you're knowledgeable about it or not. Because if you are passionate, I think that's just going to be the energy that carries you forwards. Gaining knowledge, there is always a limitless pit of knowledge in any kind of topic. It's really important to appreciate the complexity of your challenge. So anything when it comes to advocacy is not simple. So it's good to, I guess, delve into the smaller details and the diversity of any topic that you have. Think positively about it, because it is something that you are interested in and passionate about. So I never judge results based on a sort of tangible outcome, but results is progress. And if something doesn't work out, I think there's always a room to innovate and then try something else. And then finally project your thoughts. So write it down, talk about it, think about it actively, and then it can turn into something concrete. Networking. In order to be successful in networking, it takes a great deal of confidence and personality. And I think everybody has those aspects. I think some people just internalize them, where some people are very good at externalizing them. But it is sort of the biggest leap in terms of the step you take in your advocacy journey. In terms of networking, is to be brave and go and really challenge yourself and push yourself in environments where you can get the best amount of knowledge. So attending events is a great opportunity for that. Striking up conversations with people that you don't know. I think in general, you should always surround yourself with the people who are going to be positive and supportive. But you're going to learn the most out of the people who you're most different from. So yeah, definitely talk to anyone and everyone about things. Ask questions. It's the best way to gain information. Through that, build relationships with people make it mutually sort of understandable and mutually respectful, because you never know who you're going to meet in life, and it's just really important to be respectful to everyone and be kind, and focus on the value and the research in what you want to do. So it's obviously great to learn a lot about everything, but I think it's really important to just focus your energy on the things that you want to specify and specialize in. From there, you start to begin your strategies. So once you have started projecting your thoughts, you can now start to project your knowledge that you've gained on this area. And then from that, formulate your strategy. So begin to plan exactly what kind of project or what kind of initiative you want to undertake. Again, talk to the people around you, some of the established relationships that you have, or the new relationships. Accepting the risks. So that's a really crucial aspect about developing a strategy for your initiative or your project, is assess exactly what could go wrong and when it could go wrong, because it will happen, and evaluate how worthwhile your undertaking is. I think the most important thing in all of this is to make peace with failure, because failure is the only thing guaranteed in life. Everybody will have to be sort of humble and accept that things will just not go to plan. But like I said before, there's a lot of progress in failure. And I think it's really important to prioritize that positivity that you can get from things not necessarily working out. Failure is a really negative word, but it's the most realistic of words. And I think it's really important to come to terms with the reality of things and find positivity in that. From there, we move on to mobilizing. So this is the point where you get yourself up from your chair and begin working on all the things that you want to do. So you should value the fact that you are brave in doing this and use that as your new form of energy to push forwards. Again, you develop confidence, and your confidence is very key in this aspect. Like I said before, progress is result, and you should always learn from your failures. And once again, continue to focus your value on exactly what you want to specialize in. From mobilization to localization, this is exactly what sort of distinguishes us at Yes Europe, is that we prioritize local team events and local initiatives and building capacity at the local level. And then from there, from that kind of community feel, it can really turn to something special. So it's about sharing sort of ideas with either like-minded people or sharing different ideas with different people, and various combinations from that. And in doing so, you build the capacity at a very local level. Approach every sort of initiative organically. Just, look at it at face value. Don't try to think about it in too much of an extreme way, especially if you're being introduced to it for the first time, and then learn about things on a step-to-step basis. Quality over quantity, for sure. This is the step in your journey that you definitely don't want to burn out, and you'd rather just focus your energy on the value, like I sort of keep on saying. And the most important thing is to enjoy every step. I think work is work, and for anybody who's sort of engaged in advocacy or activism as their form of work, you're only ever going to really see it as work, and that's the issue with sort of being, I guess, engaged professionally in anything. But the reality is that that's the path that you picked, and you picked it because that's the thing that you like. So I think it's important to always come back to the fact that and remember that this is what you enjoy doing. From localization to globalization, and this is the point where you start thinking about syndicates, about internationalizing your idea. So at this point, your local idea has really taken off, and it's now about breaking borders and literally crossing borders to build from that. So you can either build horizontally, so you take your idea and see how it can be sort of implemented in different communities, or you build vertically. So you take your idea and you deepen it within your community, and then from there it can sort of launch. Diversification is a way of sort of building vertically, where you bring in new different areas into everything. I think the most kind of diversifying agent right now is digitalization. Digitalization and rapid advancements in technology is penetrating every sort of sector that we know in our world. And I think that's sort of the thing at the moment that is really leading to diversification. Encourage opinions. I think this applies to every single aspect about this sort of journey, but this is also a very crucial aspect, because this is the point where you're going to be breaking different borders and exploring different cultures. So encouraging different opinions is really crucial. Cross borders, like I said, and most importantly, remain open-minded. I think at this point, it is really, really challenging to sort of bring about something which may have been a bit of a success in your world that may prove to not be at all successful or generate value in a different world. So it's important to remain open-minded and then adapt your idea to that world. And finally, you are ready to launch your idea into the abyss, into infinity, wherever it may go. Maybe it doesn't go very far, but this is the point where you sort of take your idea and run with it and see where it does take you. So, yeah, it's important to be braver than ever, to value every little piece of what you put together in order to take it to the next stage. You know, when you launch a rocket into space, if there was something not exactly there in the right place that would show the amount of dedication, it can compromise the entire thing. So it's important to just value every element over there. Delegate and trust. Obviously, in big organizations, in big international organizations, whether they're NGOs or they're projects, you have to ensure that you can delegate responsibilities to people. It's even more difficult when you're an activist to do that. You sort of want to take on board everything from yourself, but you're just going to fall out of love with what you're engaging with if you burn out. So delegating, trusting people is really crucial. As ever, remain positive, and to round it off, make sure to enjoy the ride, because that's the exact reason why you started it, to be part of the ride and the process and the journey. And obviously, sort of remaining positive in that aspect can be the thing that ensures that you get results at the end of it. So now is the time for anybody in the call and anybody listening to tell us about your impact and exactly what kind of journeys that you've had in your professional, your voluntary career so far.
Thank you so much, Eric. A little digital round of applause. Katya, you've had your hand up for a while, so over to you. Katya?
I think Katya raised her hand to say that I was sharing screen at the start of the call.
I see. Okay, I wasn't quite sure with that. She didn't respond.
Sorry about that. Sorry, I forgot about that.
No worries. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I'm good, thanks. I'm very well done to Ranal for what she's created. I think I was telling Eric on a separate chat, it's very, very impressive that she's been able to do that. And obviously, like, I've been listening to Eric tell me about his things for a while now already. So yeah, super, super impressed. Well done, guys.
Okay, wonderful. I can definitely tell from the MUNers Across Borders perspective, you know, there's been a lot of that too. I think our origin story was really the experience of those who've done MUN, who've done simulations, and found there wasn't really anything happening after that. You know, we all do one conference and then we drop out really. So we sort of had this idea to begin with. We sort of started with the strategy, I would say, as many of us came from experience. And then, as you say, you know, it's those different steps. There's mobilization, localization, globalization. And I think the circle is a good part of it. Because within an NGO, you're going to have several projects. You show this to us in your presentation, Eric. You know, you don't just have one event. You have maybe one conference, but you have many other events you do, and they all form a part of that circular structure for each of them in their own way. Maybe the broader organization has that, but definitely all of them are smaller. I have a question, and maybe a challenge to you actually as well. Do you need an organization to be an advocate, an activist?
No. I think that's the sort of obvious answer. You definitely don't. But I think, so first of all, I think the internet is the greatest invention that we've had, apart from the Concorde plane. I think the internet is no, but it's true. The internet is the greatest invention that we've had. And people have the opportunity to completely implement radical changes just by using the internet as their platform. But I think the internet has a number of different, I guess, characters. I think it's just one sort of social media is just one huge sitcom of different characters and personalities who are sort of advocating on their own. I think there's a lot of really angry people who shout at the camera and tell people about exactly what needs to be done from their perspective. And what the internet does is it rewards people who are engaging. I think It doesn't matter what your content matter is. I think that's just the way things are based algorithmically. Whereas there's a lot of beauty and complexity to appreciate with being part of a syndicate or an organization that sort of goes beyond what the internet can really offer. Obviously, I think being a singular advocate or a singular activist, it doesn't mean that you're an individual in that regard. I think you're still an organization in a way. You're just an organization in yourself. But I think just given the current climate with the way like activism works, the advocacy works, I think the most notable activist who sort of started on her own in the past 10, 15 years, the most famous activist is probably Greta Thunberg. And Greta's still going really, really strong. And she basically just uses the internet for her way to engage with that. So you can for sure be really, really empowering. But I think there's a lot of sort of long-term sustainability and funnily enough that comes with being part of an organization. My advocacy and my activism will certainly not come to an end when my term as president of Yes Europe comes to an end. I am in general every day exhausted, and I can't wait to take a little bit of a break from that when my term does come to an end. But I'm going to continue living. I'm going to continue being the person that I am. Maybe I won't have specifically an organization to campaign in the way that I do. But yeah, I think obviously your energy just becomes a different sort of substance when you're just not in a setup that's sort of structured like this.
Exactly. It's sort of the ability also to bring it together. Uni.
Yeah, and I just have a little question / prompt for Eric. I really like what you said about there's a lot of progress in failure. I just wondered if you could give us an example from your activism career where you've had a proper failure that you've used for progress in some way, and how that helped you basically.
Without getting into too much confidentiality, because we're bound by a lot of MOUs. But I think just I'll try to give as much a specific example as possible. So we are an NGO, so we heavily rely on partnerships and donations to function, really. And obviously no one in the organization pockets any kind of contributions. We use that for our members to transform and create opportunities for them. And there's been times in the past where we have partnered with certain initiatives or companies that turned out to make certain decisions on their own, which we were in total disagreement with. So, picking a side in a war, for example, or deciding to sort of not invest into the mission statements that attracted us to them in the first place. Without being too specific, I think you can use your imagination and know what I'm referring to. And that is, I guess, from a business point of view, that is a complete failure. It is a devastating failure when you have to sort of drop something which is giving you a lot of stability. It's like, for example, building like an office premises and finding out you're building it on unstable ground. So you have to break ground and relocate. You're quite literally uprooting your business. But I think the beauty of it is that we're not a business, we're a voluntary organization. And we're volunteering ourselves to, I guess, mobilize ourselves to do these things. It's an ever-changing world. You're never going to get anything right. The people at the very top of our kind of social circles get things wrong. Royal families, presidents, and prime ministers are making mistakes every day. So mistakes and failures are words that we have to accept, but they are not definitions. They are simply things that happen, and they're just great opportunities to be able to learn and move on from, and then use those as, it's almost like a free lesson. It's not a very nice lesson, but it is a completely free lesson in order to grow from that. If you knew everything that you needed to know to be successful, you obviously wouldn't have any kind of hiccups along the way, but no one in the world is like that. So you're going to have hiccups along the way. And that's just the best way to be able to learn and reevaluate and I guess, make better decisions from then on.
Okay, fantastic. I am very keen to get others involved in the chat. Is there anyone who wants to ask a question or bring in some of their own experiences? Sonia, please.
Hi, Eric and everyone. Thank you so much for the presentation. It was really insightful. My question is not related to your presentation, but it's more of a generic question. My experience and like future as well, what skill, demonstrable skill, do you think is most important to be a good advocate? Like, so many skills that we developed through MUNs, but if there's like one skill that you think helped you the most in being helping in whatever way, what would it be?
I don't particularly think it's a skill. I think it's more of just like a trait, but I think it's bravery, ultimately. Um, I think being an advocate is always a marriage of two things. It's about your sort of technical knowledge and your technical skills, which are very specific, and then it's about your sort of personality and your character. So I don't know whether it can be classified as a skill, but I think bravery is the most important thing because you're inviting the noise to your life. Basically, you're heading head first towards danger. Literally, everything in you is telling you to not go towards conflict, but you're doing it because you want to believe in something bigger and better than yourself. And it takes a lot of bravery to do that. And you can really appreciate why most people choose to select more peaceful lives in a very kind of neutral way and not engage themselves with, I think, advocacy. And that's fair enough because you can't put that responsibility on singular people. The collective responsibility is on all of us as a species. But ultimately, it is the bravery of individual people who lead that. And I think there's enormously brave people that we engage with every day. There's plenty of brave people in this call. I recognize some of the people in this call just through LinkedIn networks, and I know what they get up to. We had a very brave person, Ronelle, talk about everything that she was doing as well. So yeah, I'd definitely say bravery.
Thank you so much. I totally agree with that as well. So thanks so much for being brave.
Thank you, Samaya.
Amazing. Okay, are there any others who might want to?
You are muted, Philippe.
Thank you kindly. I'll just say, are there any others who might want to make a comment? Otherwise, I think we might move to wrap up. It's been a lovely 90 minutes with yourself, Eric, with everyone on this call. But I will, of course, give the last chance. Anyone else wish to raise their hand, make a comment, ask a question? Okay. I'll end with a question I love asking at all the events I moderate. What makes you hopeful for the future, Eric?
Young people, I think. The next generation continues to get more and more vengeful, I think, like wanting to reclaim things that they either lost or never had. You have to appreciate the values of sort of good parenting who tell their children about like these are the things that we used to have back in our day, and it's like, well, why don't I have this anymore? Why can't I afford a home before the age of 30? Why can't I swim in certain areas anymore? Why do I have to pay this amount for this thing when this was never the case? And it's that almost like it almost takes like greed, like why can't I get this? And it transforms into, oh, none of us are going to get this anymore. So yeah, I think young people is particularly. I'm saying this because I'm still incredibly young as well. But there are people who I know who I engage with in my organization who are far younger than me, who are still sort of a university, and they have an energy like that I can't comprehend. It's incredible. So I think that is the most promising thing for the future.
Thank you. Uni, do you want to add anything? Anything you're hopeful for?
Eric kind of took mine, but
Eric took yours, of course.
No, I really enjoy seeing youth-led organizations and initiatives pop up. It feels like wherever I go, I really love seeing not just individuals sort of creating change by themselves, but to see big organizations forming of young people together is something that really, I really love seeing.
Amazing. Well, I think that is going to be the end of this toolkit session. Thank you very much to Eric Balakrishnan for his amazing presentation, for his discussion, and of course for being there with the panel before. To everyone on the call, this isn't the end of all of it, we have our next event in just under a month's time on UN Day, and we're hoping for some fairly big news in regards to news regarding the UN Global Department of Communications. So please do make sure to join us. Please make sure also to get in contact with Eric and Yes Europe, and Ronelle and Life in Leggings, and Cecilia and Yem Young European Movement. And otherwise, we will be sending a feedback form as well, so please do fill that in with any comments. And we look forward to seeing you at our next event. So thank you very much again, everyone. Thank you to Eric, thank you to Ronelle, to Cecilia, to Uni, and a special shout out to Megan Zhang, who was the designer of this event, who sadly could not make it today. And to all of you joining, to both here now and those watching online later. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, afternoon, morning, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for moderating, Philippe. It's been great.